part two of my Marvel extravaganza, if that's what you want to call it. Let's just say my Marvel knowledge of Marvel comics. But this is all about Marvel. I'll find the right title eventually. So anyway, you know, as I was saying, Rasputin, the first Rasputin to die was Colossus because Deathbird killed him. And this is way back in the 60, 70 era when X-Men first came out. It's about the time of the Dark Phoenix, or about the time the Phoenix Saga was about to begin. So we're going through all that stuff. If you can find the X-Men classic, Deathbird kills Colossus. I don't know the title, but it comes between, and one shall save them all, and it comes between one of the titles of, and the X-Men will never be the same again, and all this other stuff. Now, moving forward to that, the Death in Dallas, the only two X-Men that didn't make it was Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat, and Nightcrawler, aka Kurt Wagner. Now, the reason why they didn't make it, Kurt Wagner got fucked up in the mission prior to going to Dallas, and Kitty couldn't unphase herself. So neither one of them were doing anybody any good. And about this time, Xavier's off in space having mad alien sex with Lilandra Chun-Li, Lilandra from the Shi'ar Empire. And Lila Chun-Li, she's zipping through space and time with her rock concerts that she's giving off. Sam Guthrie's not with her in this event. He's still with the New Mutants, but they're off on a mission. And about this time, Magneto has taken charge of the X-Men. I don't know. Xavier was dying, and Magneto was his bro. So Xavier reached out to him and said, "Look, take care of my kids. I need you to watch my X-Men." And Lila told Magneto, "I will bring him back when we save him." Because they had life-saving technology, because not only have they used it before to save Colossus, now they were going to use it to save Xavier. And in turn, when he was healthy enough to come back, they would let him come back, which would be almost 10 years before he ever came back to the comics, which he came back in 89, 90, somewhere in there, where he tried to steal the Blackbird from the X-Men, and then they finally found out who he was because he was wearing Shi'ar Empire space armor. Also, it leads you to where Corsair and them come to the Starjammers come to Earth to do something for him or whatever, and then also where they find out that not only is Corsair a father of 2 mutants, but he's the father of 3 because Vulcan is Corsair's 3rd child, where Corsair's wife was a rape baby named Adam X that was born to Daken. So it's probably all retconned now, but Adam X, or Extreme, which was his name, and not Extreme spelled EX. It was Extreme with an X. He had 2 axes. He was a hybrid human. He technically could be a mutant. He had the same eye thing that Gambit has, where the whites in your eyes is black, and he had green eyes. But he had Spock ears, so he always wore long hair in that hat like Terry Bogard from Fatal Fury, or Final Fight, whichever one does not have Andre in it. So, within that, the things started getting complicated, and X-Men were on a roll. And then all of a sudden, Nathan Grey shows up out of nowhere. Nathan Grey, Cable from another dimension. He's pure mutant. Unfortunately, he has the legacy virus. So, him and Cable are going to have a fight. Now, Nate Grey was going under the guise of X-Man. X and Man. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Not the X-Men. His code name was X-Man. I forgot how he got the code. Maybe he had it in the other dimension. But there was. I don't remember who won between him and Cable. I'm still looking for that comic to this day. Now, as far as that goes, Strife, also a Cable, or a clone of Cable. Eventually they will come to find out that he was a clone of Cable. I don't know how he came to be, but he is a clone of Cable. I don't know if they cloned him to make him have spare parts for Cable, but Cable, the real Cable, the actual son of Cyclops, has a whole bunch of cybernetic parts because he also had the legacy virus, and his cybernetic parts and his telekinetics are what's holding his body together. There's clearly his technology in his world totally fucking sucks. And then there's Apocalypse 2, who is Cable's son, who took over and somehow got possessed, I guess, by Apocalypse. Somehow he became Apocalypse, and it's just one big clusterfuck after another. And it's Cable's stepson, Kane, who came from a dimension, who secretly joined the Six Pack so that he could reach the Cable. And I can't remember if his job was to assassinate Cable or whatever, but it was a long story. He wasn't Cable's biological son. By the way, all of those guys were drawn by Rob Liefeld, who also didn't get his royalties, which also led to the big clusterfuck of the X-Men and them getting all their names changed so that they would have to pay them. X-Force, I think, became Exiles. X-Factors became X something. Excalibur, the only thing they changed is they actually just took the E off and spelled it with an X. And it was like a big-ass clusterfuck. And then when they got that problem solved out, it only went from there to hell in a handbasket. And then by the time 2008 rolls around, Marvel's about to hit you with the clusterfuck from hell. And then by 2010, I was completely done with Marvel. Not as a fan, but just as a reader, because I don't want to pay $4.99 for a comic that has gone completely off the fucking rails. All my favorite X-Men all of a sudden started having a legacy virus. Wolverine started getting more fucked up, and then X-23 pops up on the scene, and it only goes from bad to worse there. And then they have cartoons to try to like manage it out, because somewhere in that time, the '90s X-Men went off, X-Men Evolution came out, and you go through all this stuff. And now the good thing about X-Men Evolution, I'll give that to you while I'm here, is that they actually did introduce some of the New Mutants. But there has never been an X-Men comic, excuse me, there's never been an X-Men cartoon made to this day that has done it right. Alright? They probably will never do it right, and before Stan Lee leaves the Earth, they will never go from the original 5 X-Men and bring in the other ones slowly. There's never been a cartoon that has done it. They have done every possibility of an X-Men cartoon. They did Wolverine and the X-Men, where Wolverine and Charles Xavier were friends and all this other stuff, and talking about Wolverine's past, and then Charles Xavier goes, they put him in a coma or whatever, and he wakes up in the future, and the only X-Men are left are the ones that have saved him from the building crumbling, and there's graves and stuff everywhere. So basically, it takes place of X-Men Days of Future Past, but Wolverine is in the past, and he contacts Charles Xavier through the future, through his dead or his unconscious body or whatever. So Xavier does wake up eventually, because you understand it is like 3 or 4 episodes in the future where it's all about Xavier and Bishop and all this other stuff, but yet you don't know what happens to Wolverine then, other than Wolverine was training Bishop to fight. You know, and then Bishop goes back in time to try to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen, and it's just all kinds of crazy. And then by the show was canceled before they ended it, and then by then you have Lauren Dane and Magneto and Nightcrawler on an island trying to figure stuff out. It's just one crazy cartoon. And like I said, as long as I have been breathing, there hasn't been any cartoon with the X-Men that has done it exactly the way the comics are. Now, when their first cartoon came out, like in the 60s or some shit, where the background's the only thing that moves, where Iceman didn't have a face, that's the only one I've seen that was done correctly. The only one. But when the cartoons, like when they started getting really big, none. Even when the 90s, you know, you knew Beast, but they never mentioned Iceman. They never mentioned Angel. They made cameos. Iceman didn't, but Angel made a cameo. Rogue was there on the team. Dazzler made a cameo. Psylocke made a cameo. All the X-Men from the 90s made cameos, but they were never really in there outside of Gambit, Rogue, Storm, Forge, and them made a cameo. Morph, I have no idea who the fuck he was. I think that was just part of the deal with Fox. And you did have a Mimic though, so I guess Morph could have been Mimic, and I guess Fox and them made a deal to make them the same guy or whatever. But you did never get to see in the '90s cartoon the original 5 X-Men doing their thing. Now back in the '60s, like when cartoons were just basically backgrounds moving, you have a drawing. Iceman walked like he was laid way back, and he had no face, no mouth, and it had the bubbles pop up. You know, that's the only one that did it right, but then he didn't do it right. Same thing with the Captain Americas, same thing with Fantastic Four, same thing with all the Marvel cartoons before the 70s, just like totally sucked ass. However, they were closer to right than wrong. Even the Spider-Man cartoon and stuff was right. But when it came down to like X-Men, you only have that one. It had Iceman, Jean Grey, Beast, Angel, and Cyclops. Other than that, every cartoon after that has never done it right. You have hints that they were part of the X-Men team, but you don't have them being X-Men. Now, I know this will never happen. I know Marvel will more than likely never give me a job. That's too bad. But had they gave me a job, the last cartoon that used to be on G4, I would have had it drawn that way, but I would have started off that first season. I would bring in all the X-Men individually. Like, the first 5 episodes would be the backstories of how Cyclops was basically manipulated by Sinister and until he got to the door of Xavier's school for the gifted youngsters because he was the first student where Xavier went to get him. Then I would go do the Jean Grey story and how she had the cars floating in the neighborhood and all the other stuff and how everybody thought that she was the weird girl. That's why nobody hung with her in school. And then, I'd bring her in. Then the next episode, I would do Beast. Genius kid, ape-like agility, blah, 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 fur everywhere, but not the dog face or the cat face bullshit that they reduced him to being. Literally just making him look like a beast. Which is really an insult to the character as far as I'm concerned, but I would have just kept him normal. Because Beast really didn't turn that way until he became an Avenger. For those who don't know, yes, Beast was an Avenger. Yes, Beast, in his desperation to cure his mutant genetic flaw, wound up fucking himself over and became stupid when he was in X Factor. And he got resources from Avengers, which is why he got smart again, and then some side effect made him blue. And blue worked for him, so they kept going. And then he fell in love with Dazzler, etc., etc. So we're not going to go there. Then we have Warren Worthington III, Angel. I'd have brought him in. Wealthiest X-Men under Xavier, because we know Warren has deep pockets, but his pockets don't run as deep as Xavier's, because Xavier's parents have old money. Old English money and old American money. Which is why Juggernaut doesn't have too many worries when it comes down to paying, because Kane is his stepbrother, and his stepbrother has also a fairly decent inheritance of that. And so I would hint at that after their first fight with Magneto. So I would lead it up to by the 5th episode, Magneto and Xavier would have problems. Just a little bit of drama that makes them splinter into their own directions. Then I would make Magneto go form the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, or the Mutant Liberation Front, or any of the other clans that he was in, and have his children, Pedro and Scarlet Witch, Wanda, start collecting them. And then they would no longer be in the show, because they became Avengers, eventually. But they did start off as bad guys, but they eventually both became Avengers. And since they're twins, you can't have one without the other. So I would have the other people brought in, and then eventually I would introduce you to Freedom Force, which is led by Mystique and Crimson Commando. So I would slowly wean you into teams. And each time I bring in a bad team, I would bring in the New Mutants. So when you get finished meeting the first 10 episodes, you meet all the bad guys and the good guys, and you would first meet the first 3 or 4 episodes of the first team. I wouldn't jump ahead years or anything, but maybe months. I might skip a couple of months and have when you see a mission that involves the first 5 X-Men, which would be Iceman, Beast, Angel, Marvel Girl, and Cyclops. While they're on a mission, I would wean you into the New Mutant facility. Say, this is the New Mutants, and those New Mutants would be the exact mutants that it was in the comic book. It wouldn't just be the brand new New Mutants. It would start off with Colossus, Kitty Pryde, Wolverine, Storm, Havoc, Lauren Dane, aka Polaris, in case you guys missed a step, and Havoc, because those guys came in first. Kitty was the last one to come to the door, because she was also the youngest. So if you've seen the Pride of the X-Men cartoon, they left off some few things, and then I would bring in Dazzler, and then I would bring in Rogue and Longshot, and then Nightcrawler. So those guys would be coming in. Also Thunderbird, and Banshee, because both of them, Thunderbird dies his maiden mission, and I would show that. And Banshee gets severely wounded his major mission, so that's why he doesn't come back. Plus, there would be a little love spat between Banshee and Xavier over Mara McTarget, or Taggart. So, I would like to follow the history with the cartoon. Now, granted, the episodes would probably span longer than people want to see, but if you're going to do it the way Stan Lee and everybody else who drew it wanted you to see it, I wanted to go Ditka and Kirby, but I keep getting their first names fucked up, and I'm pretty sure that Kirby and Ditka both jumped from Marvel to DC a couple of times, so I just go with that, you know. And then as we progress and you get to know the second team of X-Men, who basically splinters into a red and gold or red and blue or gold and blue team, then I would bring you into the New Mutants, which would include Danielle Moonstar as Magic. Mirage. Peter's Ileana Rasputin as Magic. Um, Renee St. Clair as Wolfbane, and then Sam Guthrie as Cannonball. Uh, Doug Ramsey, I still can't think of his damn name, and Warlock. You know, so I'd wean you into those 7 guys, and then I'd take you across the pond so that you can meet Excalibur. All right, and in doing that, I would show you the link between European Psylocke to her twin brother Brian Burdock, and then you would understand that Nightcrawler and Kitty Pryde formed Excalibur with him and Rachel Summers, who somehow escaped the Warhounds and came back and wound up in England. And then you get introduced to Megan. I forgot what her powers are. I forgot what her name is. But Rachel Summers, aka the Phoenix, because she is the child of the Phoenix. She's the child of Cyclops and Jean Grey, who had the Phoenix Force, and somehow Rachel has it. All right. But Rachel does not have any biological ties to the Phoenix in their world, but in this world, she is the Phoenix, because that's her code name. Brian Braddock is Captain. It's Captain Britain. I'm right with the Captain part, but have him and Union Jack and everybody over there, you know, collide and talk, and then I bring your ass up north to Alpha Flight, so that you have a history with Wolverine joining Alpha Flight and leaving Alpha Flight and having Alpha Flight hunt him down. You know, I'd try to do the story the way it was when the 616 existed and keep going from there. And then I would keep going until you got to know all the X-Men the way I got to know them. Until it was time for you to get the big clusterfuck that is. So that being said, you know, I would make it that way until I introduce you every team up into X-Terminators. And then finally, I would introduce you into like some of the wars that they've had. So I would have stories leading up to these wars that they've had. I would have them battling the Fantastic Four, battling the Avengers, battling everything under the sun that they have ever encountered, especially Cyber and Shadow King and Magneto and MLF and the Freedom Force and all these other people leading up to every story that I could possibly think of. But I want it done right. Not just some watered down version of what I think people would like. No, I would do it the way myself, a diehard X-Men fan, would put it. Right? So I'm going to close because I could go on forever about this. And I don't want to make this a 3-parter or a 2-parter, so I'm going to end this with that. But you know, Marvel Comics has come a long way for me. And Marvel Comics, I owe them my life. Because had I not picked up a book, had I not read Spider-Man, I would have never met the X-Men. I probably wouldn't have made it to 20 years old. So let me first thank you and explain why as I close out. When you're a kid and you have no friends, when you're mixed and you're always picked on, or you're just picked on because they have nothing better to do, and you're the shortest kid in the class and the girls won't give you a second look, you need an escape. My escape was the X-Men. So Stan Lee, you have saved my life on so many levels. You have no idea how grateful I am to you for coming up with my escape. If I could rip a hole in the fabric of time and go into the X-Men world, I would never come back. Because I could survive there a lot better than I have survived here. I have had suicidal issues for more than most of my life. And granted, joining the Army only accelerated them when I didn't get to serve the way I wanted to serve. And as a vet, nothing hurts more than not being able to serve the way you want to serve. But, you know, as a human, you know, when you've been picked on all your life and you have no one you can talk to, those damn comic books, I could live vicariously through them forever. The toys, the comics, everything. So Stan Lee, thank you. Marvel, thank you. DC, if you're listening, thank you. Because of you guys, I am alive. I have an escape, and I have been inspired to keep going. When things have gotten their worst, there was always the X-Men. When I went to school and got picked on, I come home or I go to work, there was always the X-Men. I don't like what they've done with the X-Men. I have gratefully expressed that over 1,000 times. I know that it's not Stan Lee's fault, and I know that somewhere up there, Marvel's probably not going to give me a job for these videos that I've said about them fucking up my favorite heroes, but it's the truth. They have fucked up my favorite heroes, and that's just my opinion. Other people may have liked the way they went with the stories. I didn't. Doesn't mean I don't love the stories. I do. I still love the X-Men. I will love them until the day I die. However, in the directions in which they went, not so much. Now, when you changed Psylocke to Asian, you made her more dangerous, and then you killed her. Jubilee's always been Asian, but y'all always found a way to give her the short end of the stick. Even within Generation X, she got the short end of the stick. And finally, in closing that, when they made the Generation X movie, TV movie or whatever, they didn't even let an Asian play Jubilee. Now, no offense to the actress who played her, because I look more Asian than she does, but you know, they got a lady that really could not pass as an Asian. Go watch the Generation X movie, and she did a good job. She held it down as Jubilee. I'm not gonna away from her acting because it's just ethnically they did not deliver. You know, and that's pretty much all I have to say on that. Generation X was a great movie, and I think you guys ought to reboot it and make it a TV show. And I need a job, but you know, as an actor, I need a job. But you know, if I could get a show of my own with superhero stuff like that, I would like to be a part of the creative control process because a lot of the guys that make comic book movies and stuff. In fact, I'll stop right here. I will make another video, but not part of this. But the concept will be I'm James Bimshees, co-founder number 2, be seeing you.